Segment 3, Gold and Black Live. Brian Neubert joins me, and want to thank our sponsors, Triple X, Basham Reynolds, State Farm agent Trent Johnson, Hilton Garden Inn, and our guests today also, Jerry Seating and Dr. Will Miller. Appreciate that. If you missed any part of it, I know we had a little bit of an audio issue in Dr. Will's part. The replay will show about an hour and a half after we're done today. I'll usually get that posted. So both good stuff there. And we'll get more good stuff here from Brian Neubert. Boilermakers have it's interesting tomorrow night because of where Nebraska looks to be trending and where Purdue is trending, at least to the untrained eye or the semi-trained eye, you think this could be a walk in the park tomorrow night. Purdue can't take anybody for granted, though, and from your perspective, or how do you view tomorrow against Nebraska?
Well, under a very reasonable set of circumstances, Purdue could be riding a 2-game losing streak right now.
Yeah.
Instead, they've won 7 in a row, whatever it is, and the whole story would be entirely different right now if Penn State had just closed that game out.
Yeah.
Had they not given up a way too easy layup with a couple seconds left to go in regulation, had the referees called a foul on Nogel Eastern the prior time down the floor, that game is over and you've lost at Penn State. You're down 13 points on your home floor, 14 minutes to go against Minnesota. Give Purdue a ton of credit for coming back from that, but also don't lose sight of the reality that happened. So Purdue, while on paper looks like they're rolling right now, there's been some flaws lately, and a mature, self-aware team would go into a game like this against an opponent that can't do anything right now, understanding of that, and they would come out, with the requisite focus, the requisite understanding of what's gotten them here in the first place. And while obviously Nebraska is in a bad place right now, there are some things Purdue has to continue to stay on top of. They have to keep not turning the ball over. They got to keep making good decisions. They got to keep rebounding. They got to keep doing what got them here. And, Purdue's got to keep proving that it's going to stay on top of those things. And until for certain every single time out Purdue is going to bring its best, then you really can't overlook any opponent. Not that you can ever, but the simple fact Purdue's almost gotten beat its last 2 times out should have these guys on high alert for those things.
One would think, and that obviously tomorrow night, 8:30 tip-off in Mackey Arena. Brian, they have that margin for error is razor thin, and a couple things go a couple different ways, like Brian said, and we're looking at a very different situation. But you also look at the Big Ten, and you see Michigan State and Michigan, mainly Michigan State right now, laboring a little bit, which over the years the Spartans have had their good teams have had some times where they've kind of gone in the tank for a short period of time. Is that just, you've watched a lot of Big Ten basketball for going on 3 decades here, is that something that is just part of, something you just have to get through? I mean, Purdue, you don't want to peak too early, but there are teams that kind of go up and down throughout the course of the year, and it's all about how you get out of that come March.
Well, that's college basketball.
Yeah.
That's the nature of playing 3 months worth of games, 4 months worth of games with teenage males.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the simple reality of college sports. And every team goes through its ups and downs. Purdue knows that as well as anyone. They had the 3-game losing streak last year. Some of its best teams have just had these spells mid-season where they've lost 2 or 3 games in a row. Everything looks awful, and then it just kind of turns around. The question for Purdue is, do they have that lying ahead for them? Are they in the middle of it now and they're winning anyway? Or did that all get out of their system when they struggled early in the season? We don't know. Obviously, Michigan State's going through tough times right now. Michigan got through some games where it didn't play very well, lost a few of them, won a couple of them. Every team goes through some struggles here and there. It's just a matter of whether or not Purdue has those struggles out of its system now or if those still lie ahead.
What has surprised you? You look at where this team has been, where Purdue has gone. You've talked at length about the play, and written, I should say, also at length about what Nogel Eastern has brought to this team, Travion Williams. I mean, what has the Williams emergence surprised you more than how good Nogel Eastern has gotten consistently? I mean, is there a way to quantify that from your perspective?
Well, I thought Matt Harms made an interesting point yesterday, or at least articulated it in a way I hadn't necessarily thought of, was I was talking to him about why he's playing so well lately.
Yeah.
And he talked about how, well, when the team is playing well, that gives everybody confidence, and that makes the individuals better too. And then it's the whole chicken and the egg thing. Are the players getting better so the team is getting better? Or is the team getting better and so the players are getting better? Or are they even mutually exclusive? I think Purdue is just as comfortable with each other as it's been at any point this season, and that's probably freed them up, to really play a little bit with a little bit more energy, with a little bit more confidence, and so play better. Purdue has a lot of guys trending up right now, a lot of really important guys who people looked at in November and December and said, oh, they aren't having the types of years we thought they had. Well, perhaps the circumstances were the reason for that. Perhaps, Nogel Eastern maybe was a little bit inconsistent in some ways, especially at the offensive end of the floor, not the defensive end. He's been great all year long there. Perhaps Matt Harms was a little bit inconsistent because Purdue inherently was inconsistent.
Yeah.
Everything was so new. Everybody was breaking into new roles. Everybody was breaking into new uniforms, whatever it might have been. The whole team went through this process, and it looks now like it's gotten out of that process in pretty good shape. But the question I just broached in my prior answer was, are there still inconsistencies ahead, or is this kind of the top of the heap for Purdue now? But Purdue has a lot of guys trending upward, and that speaks to the likelihood that this team can still get better and better.
The seniors have, with Grady Eifert and Ryan Klein, and both have done big things on the court. But enlighten us in terms of your view of how much they've meant. I mean, obviously Ryan Klein shooting the ball the way he has, but Grady Eifert making getting every loose ball that it seems like he can possibly get. Doesn't count for anything necessarily, or at times in the scorebook. But this is a guy that's making a huge difference. But their role with this team and maybe not vocal guys, I don't know, but they're guys that have made a huge difference in this team.
Yeah, I think both of those guys know what they are now. I should say Ryan Klein knows what he is now. I think maybe earlier in the season he was kind of moving into this higher volume, higher responsibility role, and maybe that affected him a little bit. There was some inconsistency there in the shooting numbers. Now, I think he's as comfortable in his own skin, so to speak, as he's ever been this season, and he's having an all Big Ten season. I mean, I don't know if there's a better shooter in college basketball right now than Ryan Klein, and he is that. If Carson Edwards needs a quote-unquote wingman as a scorer, he's a damn good one. Yeah. In terms of Grady Eifert, I don't know if Matt Painter's ever had a better role player, and the term role player has to drop the negative connotation at some point. People look at that like that's a backhanded compliment to players. It's not.
It's a glue player almost.
Correct. A glue player. And Grady Eifert's been about as good at it as any player I think Matt Painter's had. When you look at what he does in terms of the effort, the energy, the quote-unquote spark he brings to the floor, he might be Purdue's best team defender. Not best defender, team defender. And that typically comes with experience. When you look at what he does offensively, he's a good ball mover. He's a good screen setter. He knows the offense. He makes big shots, and it's really interesting with him because I was going through some analytics earlier today. He is one of the most efficient offensive players in college basketball, not the Big Ten, not Purdue, college basketball, on the lowest usage on Purdue's team. That means fewer possessions end with him doing something than they do any other player on Purdue's team percentage-wise. So he is making the most of his opportunities, clearly. He's having a positive impact every chance he gets. But what you're seeing with these two seniors, they were never going to be, those rah-rah leaders.
Not their personality.
That's not their personality. But what you see from those guys, and I think you can protract this over Purdue's entire team, these guys understand their roles better than they have at any point this season. You don't see many guys stepping out of their roles. You don't see Grady Eifert doing things Grady Eifert shouldn't do. You don't see Ryan Klein doing things Ryan Klein shouldn't do. You just don't see guys taking a lot of bad shots. You don't see guys playing away from their strengths very often. And I think Grady Eifert and Ryan Klein are probably two pretty good examples of that. And it's important when you're a senior leader, especially if you aren't that rah-rah sort of, Disney movie kind of leader, then it's important for you to set an example. And a good way to set an example is to play your role, do the best you can in it. And I don't know if it's connected or not, but this entire team seems to be doing that same thing, and that's a big part of the reason why this team's playing so well right now.
And if you haven't had the chance, you should listen to Brian's post-game podcast we put up on iTunes because it's usually, I don't know if you're usually at home games, usually doing it while you're driving home, which makes me a little nervous, but you're really good at it.
I do it from the car if I'm on the road.
But your seatbelt's on.
Well, if I'm on the road and I need my phone for GPS, then I just wait till I get back to the hotel room. So I'm sure there have been people in the hotel rooms next to me wondering what the hell who I'm talking to.
But I really liked the analysis you gave, which I thought really brought it down to one. And it's hard to, you can't dumb this all or pare this all down to one thing, but the Eifert's three-pointer against Minnesota, and I think it was what you mentioned, and the fact of what a beautiful play it was because of Eastern's textbook drive the middle and pitch.
Patience.
And how that really has been kind of, I don't know if it epitomizes, but it brings to the fore where this team might be and how well they play together, at least those two.
Well, one of the imbalances here this season between how you might have looked at things in November and December and now is earlier in the season it seemed like a four-alarm fire that, hey, Purdue doesn't have a point guard. They don't have that true point guard presence that you need at Florida State. You know, at the end, somebody who just wants the ball in their hands, somebody who's going to make free throws to win games, somebody who's going to make a good decision, strong with the ball, whatever it may be. And now you're looking at Nogel Eastern as a guy who is winning games for Purdue at the foul line.
Unbelievable.
But also, in closing time against Minnesota, made the point guardiest play of any point guard who's ever played point guard, because it was at the end of the shot clock. He showed unbelievable patience. He showed unbelievable awareness. He made an incredible play to find a guy who wasn't maybe directly in his peripheral vision, knew where Grady Eifert was, which is also a credit to Grady Eifert, by the way,
getting the right
to make
spot.
himself available to be where he was supposed to be on the play. But that was just an outstanding play by Nogel Eastern and a very, very point guard oriented play. That was as good a point guard play as Purdue's had all season long, if not, kind of dating back to last year when you could always rely on P.J. Thompson to make the right play.
Yeah, and it's a truthiness. I don't know what we were getting at there, but makes me now want to go back and watch that play again because you kind of focus. You tend to focus on the fact, oh my gosh, Eifert, who can make threes, makes this huge three, but there was a lot. There was a play within the play there to make that happen. All right, where do we go from here now? I mean, obviously tomorrow night, but Purdue you'll be going to Maryland Monday afternoon for Tuesday night's game. This is the schedule. Everybody, there are people that are saying, well, Purdue's got it all, not necessarily in their back pocket, but they have a very advantageous schedule, which may be true, but there's still a lot of pitfalls out there for Purdue.
Yeah, of the viable contenders in the Big Ten, Purdue clearly has the easiest, or most user-friendly. I like to use because I don't think anything's easy.
Yeah, I agree.
The user-friendliest path by a mile. If Purdue gets Nebraska, which I think we can reasonably assume they're going to get, as good as they've been at home, as bad as Nebraska is right now. If Purdue goes to Maryland and wins that game, they're sitting pretty.
Yeah.
That's found money. That's you are there.
Yeah.
You just need to not fall off a cliff, and you are in striking distance of winning a Big Ten championship because your worst road trips are behind you.
Yeah.
Your most difficult games, once Maryland is behind you, are behind you. You've been great at home. Northwestern is one of your road games left over. They're bad.
Yeah.
Nebraska is one of your road games left over. They're in tatters right now. Indiana, it's never easy to win in Bloomington. It's never easy, but this is not the Indiana team you thought earlier in the year it would be. Nevertheless, that is not going to be an easy game to win. But when you sit here and you look at what Purdue has remaining, when you're talking about, and I'm talking about once Maryland is passed, when you're talking about at Indiana being your most difficult game.
Well, you got to go to Minnesota
from here on out. You do have to go to Minnesota.
Yeah.
That is going to be a difficult game as well. But in terms of your more urgent
I agree with you.
matters, going to Indiana,
Yeah.
the way Indiana's played, the way Indiana's just struggled this season in general, that's not nearly as formidable a game. Purdue just doesn't have any games left that scare the hell out of you.
Yeah.
They don't have an at Michigan State. They don't have a Michigan period. They don't have any more Wisconsin, the way Wisconsin's playing. They don't even have Iowa, the way Iowa's
playing great. Yeah.
Iowa's playing really well right now. They just, Purdue, once they get through this Maryland game, their path is greased.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to be watching that closely, and obviously you can look for Brian's work on the site, and there'll be lots of it come tomorrow night. It's late night. He doesn't need to be reminded of that because I think he's got something football oriented. You still have something football oriented Sunday morning. Can we hire you?
In Indy.
Can we hire a driver for you? Yeah, maybe. So, all right. It'll be an interesting rest of the week and rest of the regular season and well into the postseason for Purdue basketball as the Boilermakers go after a Big Ten championship, and that is a possibility. We want to thank our sponsors, Triple X. On the hill, but on the level of Purdue tradition since 1929. John Basham already taking reservations, long since been taking reservations for 2019-20. Hilton Garden Inn, when tomorrow's a big day, stay at HDI tonight. And State Farm agent Trent Johnson at trentismyagent.com. We're grateful for them. We're grateful for Gordon and Brad and Steve and everybody back in the back room at WLFI for helping us out. Jerry Seasting for joining us today, and also Dr. Will Miller. If you missed our show or parts of it, replay will be up on the site here before long. So have a great week. We'll be back next Friday. Brian Walker will be one of our guests. I know that the former Purdue point guard is a good analyst of Purdue basketball, and we'll look forward to having him on as well, but we'll have others join us too, and we will see you next week on Golden Black Live.